Hello and welcome to HealthQuest. My name is Dr. Robert Stashko, and it's my pleasure to have a panel of guests tonight for the show. On other shows that I've done, we've talked about essential nutrients. The main essential nutrient has been minerals, because minerals basically make vitamins work. But today I want to talk about an essential substance for every cell in your body. And this substance, 70% of the earth is made up of it. 70% of the human body is made up of it, and people don't do enough of it. Can anybody tell me what it might be?
Water?
That's correct, Terry. Water is such an essential nutrient for our bodies. The biggest thing I see in practice is a condition called dehydration. And dehydration, probably 90–95% of the people in warm weather will become dehydrated. And people think they're drinking enough water, and I've talked to patients a number of times where, well, I drink 7, 8, 10 glasses of water a day, and when I check them with different things we do in the office, they're still dehydrated, and they can't understand how that can be. And we'll go through a few reasons why that is as we talk tonight. But the important thing is, in really warm weather, we need to drink enough water so our cells can actually be healthier. One of the examples I give people is when you take a bath, for instance. In order to cleanse the outside of your body, how much water do you use? You use basically what, a whole tub full or a shower full of water. Just think how much you need internally to cleanse every single cell, some 3 trillion cells that's within our system ourselves. So you need the water internally also. Many conditions that develop from dehydration, as a chiropractor, we've seen pain syndromes, low back pain. I can't tell you the amount of people when we look at MRIs that their discs, the little cushions between the vertebrae, basically are squeezed down upon each other. And as we get older, we all get a certain amount of dehydration to the disc, but we also get degeneration of the disc. A prime reason for that is not enough water, because the intervertebral disc has to have a hydrostatic pressure, almost like a cushioning effect. And if we're dehydrated, that disc actually will compress. And this is one of the main factors for pain. So if people drink enough water, even with degenerated discs, they got a better chance at reducing the pain syndromes itself. So it's extremely important. Constipation is another big factor. How many times people are taking laxatives every day and the body becomes dependent on the laxatives they're taking. And sometimes it's a simple thing as drinking enough water. People will ask, how much water do I need to drink? There's a lot of controversy over that. Depends on your body weight, your size. A good rule of thumb is half your body weight in ounces. That's a lot of water when you really think about it. And even with some people, I'll tell them 2 quarts of water. As long as you get at least 1 liter to 2 quarts a liter per day, you should be in pretty good shape with the water content itself. Do you guys have any questions on ideas of why water is such an essential component besides the dehydration issue?
Can you get it from drinking other things? Can you get water supply out of it?
That's a great question, because most of the time what's a factor in dehydration is people drink a lot of coffee. They drink a lot of tea. They drink a lot of soda. And those particular substances are very dehydrating for the body. So we need to drink more pure water. People think by drinking coffee 3 or 4 cups a day or drinking tea that they're getting enough water. They're actually dehydrating themselves even more. So it's something we've got to be very careful of. Another main reason that we look at water and why it's so important is we need water to detoxify our body. We're living in a very toxic environment, and the kidneys are very much dependent on proper amounts of water. We need to move heavy metals and chemicals out of our system, so if we don't have enough water within the cells, then these particular substances will build up and create many times disease processes in the body, because we all know we're living in a very toxic environment. People will ask questions too, like, for instance, what kind of water do you drink, Sharon, if you're at home?
We have a pitcher that has a filter in it, and that's what I drink out of that pitcher. Sometimes, believe it or not, I drink out of spigot. So I'm the type of person to get thirsty very quickly, so I just go and get a glass of water.
Now, is that like just like a pure filter or something like that that you're basically using?
That's in the pitcher.
It's smart that you do that, because when people come in and they drink tap water, for instance, or even well water, but tap water or city water, guess what they're getting in the water?
Chlorine.
Besides chlorine, what else? People are shot with
water?
fluoride in some systems, but guess what the biggest thing is? Other people's medications.
I never thought of that.
It's unbelievable today because what happens, a lot of the water purification plants cannot take out some of the drugs.
Wow.
And so you might be drinking your next door neighbor's antibiotics they were on, or maybe their blood pressure medication. And again, it's another toxin that, again, if the body's not working properly, it's going to build up within your own system too. People will also ask, reverse osmosis systems. They'll ask, what's a good system besides a simple, filter type system? RO water is very good to use, but you lose a lot of water too. You waste water in the reverse osmosis process. Now, it is better than drinking pure tap water or, well water for sure. But the important thing is to understand that this hydration issue is so big. There are so many disease conditions. I mean, Dr. Batman Jandi, who wrote a book, The Body's Many Cries for Water, a number of years ago, he was a prisoner in an Iranian prison camp, and he actually treated people in the camp by using just plain water. There's conditions like peptic ulcers, digestive involvement, where it responds very well to just water. So water can be a medicine, which really surprises me. We think it's just something we need to drink, but it can also be medicinal. It's important too. The different types of bottled waters are a big factor. I mean, people will come in and they're drinking bottled water. There's definitely differences in different types of water. Some of the bottled water, I found out, I won't mention any names per se, but a lot of it's municipal water supply that's bottled. And it's a little scary. I mean, you're paying for...
How can you tell that?
Well, you can do the research and you can find out which companies are doing this. And I do tell people to, you can find it out by researching the different companies and such. But think about it. You're paying for water that you can get from your own spigot, or from cities that are very polluted, which can be a problem. So we've got to be careful with something like that. You mentioned the chlorine, for instance. What's interesting with chlorine is bacteriostatic, so it does kill bacteria. But what's interesting is when you're bathing in water with chlorine, the chlorine is going right in through your skin. So there's many cases of people in showers with, you get the vinyl shower cover and you got the chlorine coming out of the water. All of a sudden these people might have a mini seizure, or they might pass out temporarily. And the reason for it is that a lot of times they're getting this toxic chlorine or this vinyl from the actual shower curtain. The chlorine too, what I don't like about it also is because it's bacteriostatic. It's bacteriostatic genocide for your own flora. So what you're actually doing is you're killing all the good bacteria in your own intestinal tract and setting yourself up for a dysbiotic bowel and other health conditions. Fluoride is another controversial substance. Some water systems have fluoride in them, some don't. But fluoride can be also a problem with your health because chloride, fluoride, bromide are all, if you remember back in high school in our basic chemistry classes, they're part of the periodic table. They're the halogen molecules. And these particular substances are toxic to the body in a build-up effect. Now, small amounts is not a problem, but if we constantly are exposed to it, we can have some problems from it that way. And you can check your bottled water too. On the bottom of most bottled water, you'll see a number. And that number should be 1, the lower the better, because the plastic itself that the water is in will have less contamination from leaching out into the water supply. And of course, that's what you want to look for. And the biodegradability of the plastic is important. I think, Terry, you mentioned that before. We want to show that it's important with the water. You guys have any other ideas on water and any questions you might have?
Are there any other telltale signs that somebody might be lacking water?
Dry
Just
mouth,
by looking
Terry.
at them walking down the street?
Yeah, dry mouth is one of the very first signs that you are dehydrated. I mean, when people have a dry mouth, they are basically running on
Do
empty.
they sweat a lot?
They'll sweat, and that's another thing too, because if in warm weather, they'll perspire quite a bit, and again, if they're not getting enough intake
Even
of
more
water,
than usual.
even more than usual, and if their water content is down to begin with, I mean, they're really in trouble for severe dehydration, passing out, sunstroke, those things if they're outside. So again, hydration is so important in warmer climates. It's a very important thing.
I don't sweat a lot, but I don't know when I'm thirsty. I have no way of knowing when I'm
Well, it's
thirsty.
interesting you say, if you don't sweat a lot,
Right.
one of the components for that is you're iodine deficient. And we'll talk a little bit about iodine in shows to come, because people who don't sweat are extremely low on iodine, and we'll talk about what that could affect.
Well, before I had too much.
Were you always that way? Did you always have problems?
When I think back, yeah, I never drank a lot.
Okay. Okay. And the thing of it is too, I get patients who come in sometimes and they'll say, well, I'm drinking tons of water, or gallons of water I should say, and I still, you still tell me I'm dehydrated. One of the reasons for it is we have to check certain components in the water. People will get tap water, for instance, and we talked how bad that could be. But an important thing to do is to check the pH of the water. And the pH with most water is about 6. So it's basically acid. So besides, I mentioned before about not drinking sodas and coffee and different things, you're putting acid water in your system. It should be around 7.5 to 8 on a pH. So I tell people just to go buy little pH strips and test the water they're drinking. That's how I first found out about certain waters that are sold. That when I started testing them, I saw what the pH was. I said, oh my goodness, there's something wrong here. So the pH is a factor when people are drinking enough and they still are dehydrated.
I think that's a very good point. I don't think people associate the body with pH. They'll think of that with their aquariums and everything else, but they'll never associate that with the human body.
That's a great analogy because the and even swimming pools. I mean,
Exactly.
People that have swimming pools will measure and check the pH on a regular
definitely.
basis.
But
And
never think about it.
the body.
The body.
The biggest swimming pool we live in.
Yeah.
Right.
This is important for us too. But I've seen, and again, it's hard for people to get enough water in. It really is. I don't know if it's a problem for you guys in warm weather. Do you do better, or what do you notice?
I do about the same. I prefer water as my favorite drink.
Okay.
I drink a few other things. I drink very little caffeine.
But one
Don't
thing
really
you probably
care
do,
for
Carl,
it.
if you do drink tea or coffee, and we all do that, you make sure that you do drink more water
Oh,
that day, right?
definitely, yes.
That's a key point for people to understand that, we're going to have people out there with, these different habits they have, but you got to realize if you're doing something that's detrimental, you got to put back in the body
Put
what
back
it
a
needs
little
to.
extra to account for that.
Yeah. Well, what about if you drank like herbal tea? Will that be?
Well,
that
the
doesn't
herb
count for.
No, because the herbal tea also is dehydrating because of the caffeine. It's probably not as bad depending on the herbs that are in there, but because it's the caffeine
I
content
tried
in
to
there.
get the decaffeinated herbal tea because
Right.
it is available. If you
Right.
look, you can see that it's
Exactly.
labeled decaffeinated.
But it's a person like me, dude, that doesn't know when he's thirsty.
Well, you should always make sure you're checked to be sure that you aren't severely dehydrated because you can't tell.
No,
See, that's the
I know.
thing. And how much water do you normally drink? I mean,
Not a lot.
Not a lot. Do you?
I drink it when I think there's something going on, and I run in and get a glass of water. But
Okay.
otherwise,
Maybe you should just tell yourself
I'm
to
never-
drink a glass of water every 2 hours, or
Well,
pick a certain
you don't,
time
you don't
and
think about it. I don't think about it.
and drink. Keep it with you. If you're at home,
Yep.
keep a bottle of water, a glass of water near you, something
Yeah.
to remind yourself. Try to do something.
I don't have a
If
good
you
memory
don't have
anymore.
if you don't
Need
have
more
the
water, that's the
sense
problem.
that
More water.
you're,
Brain needs
that you're
water. There
you go.
thirsty, write yourself a little note. Ace, drink
I'd
more
have
water.
notes plastered all over the place.
Yeah. But the importance that people must understand is that if you talk to the average person on the street and you ask them how much water they drink, it's amazing what I hear. Oh, I don't drink because I'm not thirsty. Oh, I have all kind of reasons, excuses. I drink a lot of coffee. That's one thing they'll
Yeah.
definitely do.
Yeah.
So, again, it's education. It's getting the information out to people so they know.
Yeah.
And water is an essential. It's a medicine for your body. And guess what? It really is free. It's not something we got to take buy a supplement or something. It's water. Although people are buying bottled water today.
Yeah, but I gotta pay the water company for it.
Well, guys, the time just flies on the show, and I want to thank you for being with us again tonight. And things have been very, very good as usual with the questions we ask. And remember, you write your own prescription for your own health. Thank you.